What's going on, everyone? Welcome to a spoiler-filled discussion of the new Netflix original movie, Reptile. This film is directed by Grant Singer. Okay, as always, spoiler-filled discussion. I will be talking about the end of this movie. I will be talking about kind of the idea of this movie, and it will be a little bit different, I think, than what I usually talk about when it comes to reviews, because I have some thoughts on this idea of what this movie does. So just be aware, spoilers, just for your sake if you haven't seen this movie yet. So Reptile is a new murder mystery suspense film. It's the story of a character named Tom, who's played by Benicio del Toro, who's a co-writer on this film, who, along with his wife, who's played by Alicia Silverstone, has left his old precinct because he was involved with a corruption case of his partner, who unfortunately caused a lot of strife, and he had to leave. So now he's working for the precinct of his wife's uncle, who's of course played by Eric Bogosian. And it basically becomes a story about a man who is investigating the murder of this realtor, whose boyfriend, of course, is played by Justin Timberlake. And he starts to uncover a bigger mystery that not only involves why she was murdered, but may involve the people in her life, may involve the world around him, and it becomes a much more sinister tale that includes people like Michael Pitt, Owen Teague, and some other characters that are involved in this movie. Like I said, he's a uncorruptible cop who's put in scenarios that he unfortunately finds himself at the wit's end of his career in a lot of respects. So to get my non-spoiler stuff out of the way, including my non-spoiler review for this film, this is a film that has a lot of layers going for it. It has a lot of, moving pieces and parts in a lot of respects. And it's a film that I heard a lot of good things about. I heard Benicio del Toro was really good. I heard Alicia Silverstone was pretty good. I had heard the central mystery. It becomes more interesting as it moves along. And so I'm always up for that, like The Prisoners or stuff like that, or The Fugitive, where the idea and concept becomes more and more entangled and ensnared as the movie moves along. But once again, it was bought by Netflix. It's premiering on Netflix, and it's a movie that I didn't know if it was going to be any good or not, because what people say at like a film festival may not pass on to like a reviewer later on down the road. But I like Benicio del Toro. I think Justin Timberlake's a pretty competent actor, and so I wanted to see what this movie was about. And so for my non-spoiler honest review of this movie, it's a pretty good film, to be fairly honest. I think Benicio del Toro is really good. He really does a nice job. He's really competent in the role. I think he's one of the best working actors that still works today. And I think he does a really interesting job of having to uncover so many different layers that once the movie ends, I feel like the weight of his story is much more interesting than the actual story that is included, because it does get lost in a lot of tropes, which is unfortunate. And I do think it's a film that really hinges on whether its central mystery can work, but I don't think it works a lot of time. I think the times we spend with just Benicio del Toro and his home life and his kind of plight that he had to deal with, of course, his, leaving the precinct of where people were looking down upon him because he turned his partner in, how he's having to deal with like home life, which there's a lot of stuff in here, which I thought was really interesting. It's a really fascinating take on a cop who's just dealing with a lot of like baggage and having to come into this world where now he's dealing with another central mystery. It's a really well played character, and I really think Benicio del Toro does a really nice job with it. I just think that overall, I think, Justin Timberlake, he just doesn't really get a lot to do, to be fairly honest. The Michael Pitt character pops up as like a really weird guy. He's similar to like Paul Dano in a lot of respects in that really weirdness. The way he plays off comes off like kind of like a suspect in a lot of ways. And I think once again, he just gets caught by the wayside. I'll talk about in spoilers why that is. But I think the movie it's a really entertaining, it's a little longer than it needs to be, but it's really entertaining just on the performance of Benicio del Toro alone. The fact that we spend so much time in his home life is just really fascinating. It really is. I think it does a nice job. There's a moment where he sees like, he'll walk into like somebody's house and he'll see like a faucet where you just kind of show your hand in front of it and turn it on and turn it off. And he like really likes that. And there's like those small moments where they're trying to decide who the actual suspect and killer is, and they're all putting money in a coffee cup and stuff like that. It gives you more than these most thrillers will do, where it gives you a lot of their personal life and a lot more, levity than a film like this would do in a lot of respects. So I really enjoyed that for what it's worth. I just, once again, as I'll talk about, there's more that I wish that this film had, that it seems to kind of fall by the wayside in a lot of respects, and it's just unfortunate. It's just the way it is. But I still think it's a very competent thriller. I still think it's a very competent detective film. I think it does do a pretty decent job with what it's trying to do. wish for a little bit more, to be fairly honest. So that's kind of where I lie on my non-spoiler review. It's a little hard to talk about non-spoiler because there's a lot to deal with in this film that I want to talk about that did bother me. But yeah, so once again, I think you'll enjoy it. If you like these suspense kind of detective thriller films, I think you'll like it. Just know going in, it's not a perfect film. It has a lot of actors, actresses that do a competent job that just don't get a lot to work with, to be fairly honest, because it's so focused on Benicio's character. And yeah, overall, it's still a very good looking film, to be fairly honest. But it definitely is not like a Gone Girl or anything like that. So that's my non-spoiler review of Reptile. So let's get into spoilers right now. Okay, so spoilers for this film. Be aware, there are spoilers. My main issues with this film are not the fact that we find out that Benicio del Toro kind of finds out what's happening. I just feel the tropes are a little too easy. This is very much in the realm of The Negotiator, to be fairly honest, where an incident happens where this young girl, this realtor, is killed. Of course, you know, it's too easy to think that Justin Timberlake would be part of the conspiracy, but, you know, it really is a film that you kind of have to realize that it's following a lot of tropes. And that's why we have, like, Michael Pitt in this movie. And Michael Pitt plays that weirdo, of course, you know, the one like Paul Dano in the you know, the film Prisoners and stuff like that, where you automatically expect that it's going to be him. And on top of that, you have Carl Glusman, who plays her ex-boyfriend, this young girl's ex-boyfriend. And, you know, it tries to lead you on this kind of whirlwind kind of, you know, journey where the more and more you uncover, the more and more you realize that it's not Carl Glusman, it is not, of course, you know, Michael Pitt, is not any of these individuals. It basically wraps around straight back to the original story of, you know, why did she die? And it's just, when you find out, it's like, oh, great. It's one of those things where it's just, I feel like there could have been more, to be fairly honest. And I don't know what you could do about it, but I've seen this trope like a billion times before, like I said, with Negotiator, where you find out that the company that is running, the realtor company that is running Justin Timberlake and his mother basically are selling these properties. And of course, the character, the young woman, she knew about it, but she wasn't getting paid, and she was going to become an informant. And of course, you know, they were hiding it so they could sell drugs. And of course, when the drugs were taken, they could resell the house, and it became a market. Well, that's fine, I guess. You know, of course, there's not really much depth or character to like Carl Glusman's character, where he has a lot of heroin, which is what this movie's like kind of MacGuffin is. But apparently, he could be part of it, that type of thing. And then like Michael Pitt kind of uncovers everything, and he, you know, shows that, you know, this company that was run by, of course, Justin Timberlake's father in the movie. Was, you know, a shell company in a lot of respects for this drug operation, and it leads to, like, you know, Michael Pitt's father committing suicide because their property was taken, all that stuff. So that's fine. Everything's fine about that. It really is kind of like it's been there, done there before. But then they uncover another mystery, or at least Benicio del Toro uncovers another mystery, and we learn about, you know, other things with the corruption of the police force. You know, there's a lot of seeds being planted about the corruption of the last police force that Benicio del Toro's character, Tommy or Tim or whatever, worked for. And of course, he comes to what is supposedly the cleanest police force in the world. We have, of course, you know, Otto Asando, who plays Dan, who of course is like Benicio's partner, Dominic Lamazari or whatever his name is, who plays kind of like that outgoing, very New Yorkian style individual, or New England style individual. You have like Eric Bogosian, who plays his captain. Of course, you have Michael Peninsky, who plays the chief. And, you know, you think whatever, it's going to be like, oh, they're going to uncover some big conspiracy in this world of realism and stuff like that. And you start to come to the realization, or Benicio's character starts to come to the realization after Michael Pitt gives him the hard drive, or at least the thumb drive, that his people that he respected, including his wife's uncle, who was the Eric Bogosian character, are very corrupt individuals. You know, there's the Dominic character offers Benicio's character a job with this, you know, prince as a consultant for security if he retires, which leads into a realization that this Dominic character is basically corrupt, and because they did a thing where they taped the heroin because they knew that if they disposed it in the police station, they could, sell off the heroin. So they wrapped it in like Christmas wrapping paper or Christmas tape or whatever. So it's on the news and so on and so forth. But basically it leads down to Benicio uncovers that his basically department is corrupt. And there's a line in this movie which I really like where he explains to his wife, like who's played by Alicia Silverstone, how he only has two things that he loves in life. He loves his wife and he loves being a cop. Cop business doesn't love him, so he's basically put into another situation where he's only on his cop is outside of his partner, who basically is a corrupt individual. And it's a little tropey. It's a little, I guess I can forgive it because Benicio is so good in the movie. It's similar once again to The Negotiator, where I felt Samuel L. Jackson was really good in the movie. But I think that movie does it better because I feel like it's not as committed to being like super like overboard, and it's not committed to like having a lot of characters who don't get a lot of development. It does just enough in like the 2-hour plus running time that it has that I feel like this movie doesn't. Justin Timberlake, he's in there, but he doesn't get a lot to do. He's just kind of the guy you start suspecting after a while. Francis Fisher, who plays mom, doesn't get a lot to do. I think when they focus on the police force, I think they get a lot to do, and I think that's fine. And there are a lot of great moments, like I said in my non-spoiler review, like where they play cards, or where they eat pizza, or where they bet on who the killer is. I don't think Michael Pitt gets a very good resolution or doesn't get really any payoff to his character because he just kind of disappears, which I'm assuming that Justin Timberlake and like another character killed him and stuff like that, but you never see the kind of the payoff in there. I think Alicia Silverstone does a pretty decent job as being backup to Benicio's character, and I just think this isn't a movie I would usually talk about in like a spoiler discussion. I just feel like this movie just follows too many tropes. It follows too many kind of points of like I've seen that before, that it kind of needs a discussion in spoiler sense, because when the big reveal comes at the end where not only is he like being confronted by his captain, who's the uncle of his wife, but then you find out there's a twist there where his chief is actually the one that is the main suspect, and of course the dominant character is the main suspect, which has always been kind of known along. And then on top of everything, his captain says, oh, well, you've given the information to the bad guys, so you need to run. So he's hiding the Chrysler vehicle for the chief and stuff like that. And I don't know, I really enjoyed it. I keep talking about I'm negative about this movie, but I did enjoy this movie because it does have strong performances from Benicio, but it's just, I don't like the story of this movie. The story just has so many kind of confusing parts to it, where it's not like confusing to follow, but it's just like confusing about like, why did you need to go there? Why do you need to do this? It's like, why can't it just be a straightforward story of them capturing somebody? But I don't know, maybe they wanted to throw curveballs, maybe they wanted to be homages to other films like a Bad Lieutenant or Usual Suspects or something like that. But I feel like there's something truly missing about what Grant Singer, who does a competent job at like filming this movie. I feel like there could be more to it. So it's I think the idea of the corruption, the shell companies, the fact that Justin Timberlake gets arrested by the FBI, all that thing comes to light. But I think the stuff that just focuses on Benicio's home life and his kind of life with his his partners and stuff like that is much more interesting than what the overall story is. And I think that's why I still recommend it. I just think if you've watched this movie and you're kind of like, or if you really liked it, that's fine. But I just want to make you aware that I just have problems when it just feels like there's a little bit kind of bankrupt when it comes to this film and this kind of storytelling. But once again, I think Benicio, who's a co-writer in this film, they do a competent job. I think they do an interesting job. Just know going in, it's nothing new. It's nothing really original. So overall, I still liked Reptile. I still think it's an entertaining film. I just think you had to go in realizing that it's a lot of the same that you've seen a billion times before. So I don't know, take that for what it's worth. That's my honest opinion. So anyways, with that said, that'll be my spoiler discussion and sense of this film, why I had problems with it, all that good stuff. I felt like it had to be a spoiler discussion for it, which I wasn't expecting to do, but there you go. So anyways, that'll be my take on Netflix's Reptile. Comments below, what do you think of this movie overall? What do you think about the kind of overall nature of the spoilers, and like what do you think about the overall story, all the good stuff. But with that said, thank you so much for watching. Comments below. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell, top to what's coming next. If you like this video, awesome, hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.